You're listening to The Morning Buzz.
The Morning Buzz.
To The Morning Buzz.
The Morning Buzz on 90.3. 90.3.
90.3.
90.3 WMSC.
WMSC.
WMSC Upper Montclair.
Upper Montclair, New Jersey.
Say hello to the big, beautiful world. This is 90.3 WMSC Upper Montclair with the Monday edition of The Morning Buzz. I am one of your hosts, Kyle Pepitone, joined with me by the second host,
Ryan Breyta.
How you doing, Ryan?
You know what, Kyle? It's another week. It's another week going by. I mean, I just feel like the semester is just flying by. I can't believe it's the end of April already.
I can agree with you on that part, but I'm not sure if I agree when you say the semester's flying by. I cannot wait for it to end. And now that I personally am in finals weeks at this point, because I've got finals already and 4 weeks left of classes to do them, this isn't going to be a very fun month for me.
Yeah, I mean, it honestly just depends on the person. Like, I personally don't have that many finals, so I'm just waiting towards like the end of the year where it's like final papers and things like that.
Oh, yeah.
But, I feel like everyone's going through it right now. Everyone's at like the same boat.
Yeah, luckily I don't have, well, at least to my knowledge, I don't have papers and stuff, but I have lots and lots of projects, but nobody really wants to hear about that right now. On the other hand, what people do want to hear is Patrina Geiger with the weekly newscast.
Thank you, Kyle. So, today in national news, last night was the 93rd Annual Academy Awards in the Oscars. History was made at this award show last night where the first all-black producing team was nominated for Best Picture, the first two women were nominated for Best Director, and the first two Asian descent actors were nominated for Best Actor. Some of the Academy Award winners from last night were Nomadland for Best Picture, Sound of Metal for Best Film Editing, and Chloe Zhao for Best Director, who was the second woman to win this award in, I think, a really long time. And then Mank was the Best Production Design and many more. Moving on, in national news, according to CNBC, the U.S. is providing medical supplies for India's vaccines. In order for India to manufacture the vaccine, they need certain raw materials, and the White House said they will send out these materials for them. Biden sent out a tweet on Sunday that said, quote, "Just as India sent assistance to the United States as our hospitals were strained early in the pandemic, we are determined to help India in its time of need," end of quote. These materials are being sent out to India, include therapeutics, rapid diagnosis tests, kits, ventilators, and protective equipment for the frontline workers. In local news, according to NewJerseyNews12.com, multiple communities in New Jersey are allowing walk-ins for COVID vaccinations and dropping the appointment requirement. El Centro Catholic Church in Trenton is one of the locations that dropped the appointment requirement and was seen to have 20 to 30 people lined up in front of the church on Sunday, as well as Sacred Heart Church, who was seen to have a line in front, which administered 500 Moderna vaccines. For people who cannot attend the walk-in appointments throughout the day because of work, Mercer County will be hosting walk-up events April 29th to April 30th from 5 to 9 p.m. And on to the weather for today. Today in Montclair, there will be a high of 61 degrees and a low of 39 degrees with mostly sun all day. And back to you guys in the studio.
Well, thank you, Patrina. That was a great newscast, as always. And we wouldn't be news without our sports. And we have Matt Bruchet here. Matt, how are you today?
What's going on? So for the 2-minute warning, I'm Matt Bruchet. In Montclair State sports over the weekend, the baseball team won both games of a doubleheader against New Jersey City University with scores of 14-4 and 17-8. Men's lacrosse beat Rosemont College 21-3, and women's lacrosse beat Rowan University 13-10. Softball played in a doubleheader against Keene University and won both of them with scores of 1-0 and 5-0. Tomorrow, softball will play another doubleheader, this one against William Patterson University. While on Wednesday, the men's lacrosse team will play Keene University and women's lacrosse will be competing in the NJAC semifinals. The Brooklyn Nets last night in professional sports beat the Suns yesterday 128-119 as superstar Kevin Durant made his return from injury in dominant fashion, scoring 33 points in 28 minutes, while his teammate Kyrie Irving played efficient as always, adding 35 points to the score sheet. James Harden still watches from the sidelines as he awaits an injury update on his timeline. Today, the Knicks will be facing the Phoenix Suns as they look to hold on to the 4th seed in the playoffs. And then in the MLB, yesterday the Mets won 4-0. Something to highlight is the Mets have the lowest ERA in the league, yet one of the worst runs a game averaged. So it is proven if the Mets can get the bats going, there's a good chance that they will win. The Yankees were in Cleveland and they lost a tough match against the Indians 7-3. The Yankees will start a new series today against the Orioles, while the Mets get the day off and are back tomorrow. And on this day in sports history, in 1989, Mike Tyson got a speeding ticket for drag racing his Lamborghini in Albany, New York. Send it back to you guys.
Wow, I did not know about that last part about the speeding ticket. That was actually that one threw me for a loop because I was hearing it. I was like, sports, okay. And then you threw out the sports history. I'm like, oh, well, that's something I didn't know about.
Just got to educate you on this Monday morning.
Well, thank you for that, Matt. But I have to ask everybody else in the call. Who saw the Oscars last night?
I mean, yes. I mean, I feel like that's just everyone's reaction. It just bleh at this point, you know?
Yeah, no, definitely. Patrina, you too?
Yeah, I did.
And what did you guys think? I'll let you two go first because I feel like we might all be on the same boat here, but you know, I want to hear what you guys think personally before I start throwing out my own opinion.
Well, I give the Oscars credit for trying to change it up during a time where they have to social distance. You know, this was like one of the first in-person award ceremonies, right? And I give them credit for trying. But at the same time, I give them credit for trying. So like, you know, so was it as good as it should have been? I don't think so. You know, we talked about before the show, you know, like the camera angles, they had everything. It kind of, I don't know, it kind of felt like they were trying too hard. Like they really had one job to do, to really portray everyone in a way where they've heard a lot of the feedback over the years, whether the Oscars were like whitewashed, things like that. And they did work on that. And I'll get to that in a second. But I just feel like they tried a little too hard in what they were trying to accomplish with the shots and all the social distancing, things like that.
Right.
And in regards to, like I said earlier, like the whitewashing, it did get a little better in regards to diversity. You know, at first it seemed like a lot of the awards would be swept by people of color, but that it didn't happen at the end. But there is optimism, and I know we're going to talk about that later. But Patrina, what do you think about the whole 93rd Academy Awards?
Yeah, so I mean, I have a similar opinion to Ryan. Like, I mean, I give them credit for the diversity that they had. Like I mentioned in my newscast earlier, I was talking about how they had some first, you know, the first Asian descent. No, there's 2 Asian descents that were nominated for Best Actor and all that. And Chloe Zhao was the winner, in like the second winner for the Best Director like ever in the Academy Awards. And I was like, wow, that's great. That's really great. But off of that, I mean, like cameras and like the camera angles were very weird. I don't know. It was just, I don't know what was going on, but like I'm not a huge movie person myself, so like I'm not like somebody who's super into the Oscars, but I mean, it was interesting.
Yeah, the camera angles were definitely something. I had to pause it. Like I was watching some of it with my dad, and I had to pause it. And I had to explain to him why the camera work didn't work for a live show. Because what I noticed is they were filming this like they were filming a movie, not a live show. Because you look at previous Oscars, you look at any award show, they're like dead on camera angles, kind of like what I have right now, where the camera's right in front of my face. It's obviously people sitting together has nothing to do with the filming. It's more the social distance, but they're like rows of people sitting back. It's all like different. This one, it was all like they had them framed up in rules of thirds. They had foreground in focus, background blurred to like bring out contrast or whatnot. And it was all just so weird. I'm not saying the camera angles were bad. They were really good shots, but they didn't fit an award show setting.
No, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. It definitely, I think simple is better when it comes to these types of things. I mean, if you watched the SAG Awards a few weeks ago, it was, they did have to adapt to the pandemic as all of the award shows did. And I liked what they did. They really shortened it. They just kept it clean cut, simple. It was all virtual, which I know isn't as interesting, but it was simple and quick, and you got what you needed to get from it, and you were done. And I just think that would have been a lot better because they tried to make it interesting and it didn't work out for them. So I think simple would have been a little bit better in this case.
Right. And that's Emma Coughlin, our end segment host for the Monday Morning Buzz.
Hi, everyone.
So, yeah, I mean, well, we spent a little bit talking about, like, the Oscars, like, their setup and stuff, but I feel like we should mention a little bit more about the winners. I know, Petrina, you mentioned them a little earlier in your newscast, but I feel like that's the main reason why people... Correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't think I'm right in saying this, but the awards are really not the main reason people watch the Oscars, right?
I think a lot of it's like entertainment. I feel like,
Yeah.
I know when I was younger, my mom would just put them on because there was nothing to watch at like 8 p.m. at night.
Right. Yeah.
But I think also there are a lot of movies that people enjoy when it's a normal year. Like there are a lot of movies that people go out to the movies and see and like are expecting to win. And a lot of people have strong opinions on it. This year, however, it was very hard for people because like the movie theaters were closed and everything was like either streaming or sent to like their devices, things like that. So it was a very different type of, I think, atmosphere and feeling towards the Academy Awards. That's just my opinion. But
yeah.
Yeah, I think that people's attitude towards, I think you're right, Kyle, in some ways, like people do want to watch the Oscars because of the celebrity aspect of it. Not even just like, what are they going to win, but just like they want to see all the celebrities together and all dressed up. And I think people are sort of losing that interest a little bit, especially this year. And that is because of COVID and the pandemic. So I think that's kind of part of it. It's part of the reason why award shows just haven't been doing that well this year is because celebrities have lost their sort of, I guess, charm a little bit for the general public.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with you on that. It's like people still love them. It's like, oh my gosh, it's Leonardo DiCaprio or whoever, the big stars. I'm not very well versed in Hollywood, so I really can't throw up that many names. But that seems to have faded out a lot from what it was in years previous.
Right.
Yes.
I actually agree with that a lot. I feel like I don't know, like years back you would hear like people like just throwing out names. I feel like these days it's not like as common to hear like all these actors' names just being thrown out in like a conversation.
Right.
But like as you said, like people watching like the award shows, I don't know if it's like I feel like people do like to see celebrities like all together, all dressed up in that. I mean, as of like singing like the artist award shows, as of like songs and whatever, I feel like people like to see like that kind of entertainment. Some people will turn that on just to see them perform and then turn it off.
Right.
But like otherwise with like the Oscars, like I think they just like to I think for the Oscars it's more like awards than it would be for like the Grammys or something.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I think you're right, Petrina, that I said celebrities, but I think musicians are a bit of an exception from that because music has been bigger than ever this year, also because of the pandemic. And that showed, like the Grammys had the most viewers, I think, out of all the award shows this year. So I think you're right, Petrina.
And aren't there like I don't watch the Oscars every year. I remember watching them last year, before we all got kicked off campus before the whole pandemic hit. And I remember there were like music performances and stuff and a whole bunch of other things that, this year just didn't have.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the big things, aside from music performances, is there were no clips. There were no like B-roll, so to speak. It was literally, here's the person who's nominated and here's a title card of what they did. One of the big things, and I wrote this in the Discord last night, I said, hey, for like hair and makeup and costumes, show us what they did. Show us what we're rooting for here. Like, I get the person who worked on it is very important, but I don't know what they did to know if they're worthy of this Oscar.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're
And
right.
that's a tough one too, because I feel like for me, like not as much now, but and my parents, I know they still watch a bit for this. They'll watch them to watch the clips and then decide what they want to watch, like out of the movies that we saw
Yeah.
at the Oscars. But if they're not showing us stuff, then I don't know. It's like, okay, do I want to watch these movies? Like, so I think they were trying to shorten it a little bit, and it just they shortened the wrong part of it.
Right.
Right.
Right. Yeah. I feel
And the
like
fact, oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, it's okay, Kyle. I feel like it was just mostly raw footage, you know? It was just there. But I like as I said, I'm not a huge movie person, so it's like when I'm watching it, I like to see, like Emma said with your parents, I like to see what I'm supposed to be like rooting for and all that, but apparently I wouldn't know, you know. That's
And the fact that a lot of movies this year, like there was like a severe lack of action, adventure, mystery movies, all that kind of stuff. All of it seemed like very historical documentary type movies or realistic fiction, you could put it in like book terms. But it's all movies that would require more plain clothes costumes and makeup. Something that would be more revered for historical or chronological accuracy rather than flashy design. So I feel like in those categories, that's something you definitely need clips for. Because it's not like, oh, Spider-Man, I know what a Spider-Man suit looks like. Oh, this is how they translated it. Looks good. No, it's here's a bunch of people in 18th century clothing. Cool, I guess. I don't know what that means. At least that was my reaction to having no visual reference to what I was rooting for.
Yeah, I mean, I would have loved to see some, for example, I never heard of Nomadland won the best picture, and I never saw that. And everyone kept saying, I'm reading all these reports saying, oh, like everyone thought this was going to win. Everyone knew it was going to win best picture. I never saw it. So I think they need to appeal in areas where like they get people to watch the Oscars and get them enticing. And whether that's just like a social media thing or just even, give me a reason to watch. Because honestly, I could just watch these clips on YouTube or I could just watch these clips on Twitter of like what's happening,
Right.
That's just me.
No, totally. And I forget who, but one of you said they were like trying to shorten the Oscars this year, right?
Yeah,
And
I believe so. Yeah.
yeah. And I don't think they did it correctly. Like the clips are essential. And what they took out the clips and they let the people speak. It seemed for longer this year. Like the speeches were they had a lot more time limit to talk. And I feel like, that's great and all. They deserve every bit of, spotlight for winning. But I feel like in such a fast paced like generation and society today, you can't have people talking for that long and expect people to maintain interest.
Well, right.
Especially when you have like no background music playing them on.
Yeah, that was weird. I don't know what that was about.
I love
Just
when
kind
they
of
play
like awkward silence.
I like when they play the music towards the end where they basically tell them to like get off like the stage. You know what I mean? Like that's always my favorite because it's like, all right, you talked enough. I think a lot of the people get lost in the Oscars when they start talking about like politics or things like that. Because let's be real, I mean, the people who are watching the Oscars don't want to hear like a political speech from
Right.
You know what I mean? So I think that's part of it too, where people aren't really interested and people feel like a certain like about the Oscars too. And I was also like talking about
you have to remember though that there's a lot of pressure on celebrities right now to be political. Like,
yeah,
people are expecting them to say something about everything that's going on, and if they don't, they're not doing anything. So as much as people don't want to hear it, they also expect it.
Right.
So that's a tough one too.
Yeah, that is true. And I feel like that might contribute to the ratings of stuff because movies, they're supposed to, well, most of them the more fictional ones, are supposed to be like a sense of escapism. You're supposed to go, you're supposed to see the thrilling plot, characters, and all that. And then if all you're hearing is everything in the world is horrible, the world is on fire, you should be doing more, nobody's going to want to watch that. Nobody's going to want a constant reminder that everything around them is currently burning to the ground, both figuratively and literally.
Exactly. Yeah.
I feel like that's so hard for celebrities just because it's like if they don't mention it, it's like they're not doing anything to help. But if they do mention it, it's like they don't want to hear it. It's never like, it's always one or the other.
It's true. So Annabelle Pullen just brought up a really good point about ABC and how they require, like, you had to be like either sign onto your cable provider to watch the Oscars or like stream it. I mean, like, you have to pay for a certain thing on Hulu to watch it and all that stuff. It was harder to watch the Oscars than it has been in a long time. And that's part of like the ratings too, where like they were really low this year, and that's also part of it. And that's really a bad move on their part because, I mean, especially this year, I mean, you had to be able to stream things for the movies this year. You couldn't put them in theaters. Like, it had to be on some sort of streaming service. Yeah. And if the Oscars aren't on some sort of like accessible streaming service, then no one's going to watch them. So that was a really not so smart move on their part. But
so I didn't hear about this. So basically they just made it like more selective to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yes.
Why? That is the stupidest decision I've ever heard. And I've heard a lot of stupid decisions regarding the film industry in the past year. You're already, the ratings are plummeting. It's not as big as it used to be. And then you're going to make it even harder to watch? Mm-hmm. It's almost like they don't want people to watch this anymore.
It's also just kind of... Yeah, and it's just... Go for it. Wait, Emma, what were you about to say?
No, I was done. Go for it. You're good.
It's just like, I think we all know that the TV industry is slightly moving towards streaming services. We had Paramount Plus and all those things, Peacock on NBC, right?
I mean, yeah, every TV station in the world's got a streaming service now.
Right, and it's just like, that's where the future is headed. I mean, we learn it in our classes too that we're taking. It's just, that is where it's headed, and they wanted to see, oh, gee, how can we get people, let's see if this works, maybe this will attract a younger audience. But at the same time, when people sign up for Hulu, a lot of people, especially our age, don't really have cable. Because why would people pay for cable, add on to Hulu, Netflix, Amazon Prime?
So, and all of them have different exclusive content. If you had to buy every streaming service, it's probably just as, if not more expensive than actual cable. Like, I see it almost as a step backwards, all these different streaming services, because now you have to get all of them to see everything you want. And it's not a step forward at the least. It's this pretty much the same thing we have now, except a little bit more exclusive. So if anything, it feels like a step backwards.
Right, I agree. And I know there's this one lady that I talked to that's like, she's like maybe in her 50s, and she likes to go to the movies regularly, right? And so like, obviously it's like, she, if she likes to go, she likes to see the movies, and then like, oh, she gets excited for like the Oscars. All you gotta do is turn on your cable. But like, as somebody who's been watching the Oscars for like their entire life, and then there's this whole switch up to like switching to like a streaming service, I feel like that's just so inconvenient. It's right. Like not, like you said, not everybody like wants to buy like, purchase streaming services, and they have cable. Why would they want to, purchase a streaming service?
Yeah. And go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say, I'm actually the type of person that loves to go to the movies too. It's just kind of nostalgic for me. My grandmother, she used to work at a drive-in for all of her like years when she was alive. So I guess I just kind of have like that atmosphere of love going to the movies. And I know when they were releasing movies to the public, so the one that comes to my mind is when Disney released what was the movie? You know what I'm talking about? It's the remake.
Mulan.
Yes, thank you. I don't know how I forgot that. When they released Mulan, it was like $30 to just buy it from home. And I'm like, why would I do that? So I'm just kind of nervous about the industry, the movie industry as a whole. Like, are they just going to put things on streaming services and then the movie theaters die out? And then we're paying more in reality to see the movie to watch from home.
Yeah, because even if you had, correct me if I'm wrong, but even if you had Disney Plus, you still had to pay to see Mulan, correct? At least for a certain amount of time.
Yeah,
Right.
you needed to pay for a like the I forget what it was called, but it was like an extra special subscription if you wanted Mulan, and that's going to be the same for the one I can think of is Black Widow. When Black Widow comes out in theaters, it's also going to come out in Disney Plus, but you have to pay another like $30 in order to watch it. So yeah, and I mean, but the thing about that too, Ryan, is like, well, and I understand you because I also like I like going to the movie theater. I don't do it often, but I like to do it, and I do miss it. But really, it's the same amount of money if you factor in the snacks and everything. Like the ticket and the snacks that you buy, it's about the same. It's about $30.
Right.
But you're right. It's not the same experience. You're just sitting on your couch like you could watch any other movie.
Yeah.
You're not, in that movie theater atmosphere. But yeah, I think it's going to come back because I think people are going to want to after not being able to for so long. So I think we'll see a surge in it, but after that, I don't know. That's a tough one. We're gonna have to see.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I mean, our general manager Annabella said it was $29.99 per movie for Disney Plus, the new ones, or you can wait 3 months to watch it for free. And I mean, I don't care that much about any movie out to have to see it week of it comes out. That this $30 thing is no incentive for me. I will wait the 3 months. I don't care what movie it is. I'm not paying more on top of a streaming service that I already bought.
Agreed. I'm not somebody who's, I mean, that's actually a really good like idea for like people who are like impatient. They're gonna like, obviously they're gonna collect money for the impatient people out there, but like me personally, like I don't care about any movie that much that I'm like I want to watch it right now.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just me.
I think all of this is just the streaming as a whole is a new thing. I mean, really, it's only been around for like less than 10 years, really, and it hasn't gotten big, and it has not been around for a long time. So
right. We've seen a surge of it recently.
Yeah. So they're working out the bells and whistles of it, really. I think that Kyle, you think it kind of took us a step back in terms of how we watch movies and TV, but I think that it will eventually sort of adapt and be a better option. I know that there's talk of like different bundling of different streaming services, which would sort of be a step back to like cable, but it would be with streaming services. So that's like an interesting thing too. But a lot of this is just wait and see what happens.
Right.
Right. Yeah. I definitely think like cable will die out eventually. Movie theaters, it's sad to say. I feel like it's like after like the pandemic is like people, it's like kind of back to normal. I feel like it's gonna like people are gonna want to go, like you said. It's gonna like spike up, but then like after a while it's gonna go back down and then stay like that. I just feel like streaming services are gonna adapt because like people are gonna be like, why go out when I can be home? But like I personally love going to the movie theater, so it's really hard.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, I feel like I don't know. It's tough.
Man, I hope they don't I hope the movie theaters stay alive because it's a lot of it's a bit of cash to shell out, but it's an experience. You're not just paying for the movie, you're paying for the experience. And if you don't buy snacks there and sneak them in, it's a bit more of a good time.
Yeah, I was gonna say, was I the only one who like brings in I get like those little crunch bites things? You know what I mean? I like put them in like a bag, or I give them,
I feel like you're part of the minority if you buy snacks at the theater at this point.
Right. Well, the only snack I'll buy at the movie theater is popcorn. Otherwise, one time me and my friend snuck in a whole Popeyes meal. That was so worth it. Very worth it.
Wait, you buy popcorn at the theater? I roll in one of those carnival carts right past the front desk.
I enjoy their popcorn.
It's
Yeah.
Like I like movie theater popcorn, so I'll usually buy it. And then I'll buy a soda, which I usually regret. But yeah, but still, that's a popcorn and a soda. That's a lot of money at the movie theater,
Right.
and it just keeps getting more expensive. But yeah,
Yeah, but I think a big thing, like if movie theaters are dying down, I think the problem, or one of the contributing factors, is that just seeing the Oscars this year, there's not a lot of variety in movies genre wise. Like I said before, they all seem more documentary like or historical movies. Well, as opposed to last year, the Oscars, we had Joker, we had Parasite, which won, and I know that was more of a grounded movie, but it was more of a like a thriller kind of movie. The what was it? Endgame was yes. Endgame there too. It was all
I think it was just for something like sound editing. Yeah, it wasn't
right.
a big contender or anything.
Right. I meant more like genre wise, not like what it won.
Yeah. Part of that too, though, is that those big blockbuster movies haven't been able to do
That
anything
is very true, yeah.
because of the pandemic. So a lot of it was like smaller, sort of artistic like films that didn't need like a giant crew in this giant building all working together just to create one scene. So yeah, I think that was
true.
part of it, really. Although the Oscars have never been super diverse, really. I mean, last year was more diverse than normal, but they really tend to have a certain sort of genre that they like, which is fine. And I think there's something to be said for that genre, but I also think like our generation is way more into like the big blockbusters, like Endgame, like what was Justice League, like stuff like that.
Right. We're definitely a lot more focused on visual stimulation rather than story nowadays, I feel like.
yeah.
Which isn't necessarily a good thing. It's
No,
just
I'm on both
is.
sides of this one. I'm on both sides of it. I hate that like story and original ideas have died out, but I'm also a sucker for comic book movies just because they're so visually stunning. It's a visual spectacle.
See, I'm the type of person that likes the like A24 type movies, like Hereditary, Midsummer, like things like that.
Right.
But also, like, I can understand why Endgame is so. I liked Endgame a lot, but I'm not a big Marvel fan. But I would understand why they're so like appealing because people younger, like, you just see like Captain America and like his like thing, like his shield and everything. Are like, oh my god, like I want to be like him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that's part of the reason too. But I feel like that is also like a knack on like people's creativity sometimes. That's like the what's the emotion there? What's the storyline besides know what is going to happen because of the comic books?
And it's funny that you brought up like original ideas because now more than ever we're seeing an influx of adaptations, remakes, specifically live action ones, and yeah, it's almost like originality is dying out. This weekend, I just saw Mortal Kombat. Not an original idea. It was first a video game. I can't even count how many games are in the series at this point, but it's not even its first movie adaptation. It had two back before 2000s, and I don't believe they were well received. But this one I rather enjoyed, but I'm not going to get into it. But it was not an original idea. It's been done before in several different mediums.
I also saw that Tom and Jerry was in the movie theaters too.
Yeah, we can totally not talk about that.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. Like originality is dying out. Our producer Amanda said that it happens in the theater world too, and I noticed it in like in this music world. Like people do remakes of like songs, and it's like, oh, like this sounds familiar. I've heard this. Like you don't really hear like too many like original songs anymore. Like movies, theaters, films.
It's very unfortunate, and like it's great that there's in a sense it's great that we're having a blend of all the mediums, books to movies, video games to movies, movies to video game, all that kind of stuff, and even like musicals to movies. I don't know
That's
if it's
actually-
as good, i.e., Cats, but you know,
But then I totally, Amanda, when you said that, I was like, oh my God, because they're going to make a Game of Thrones musical. And to me, that is just ridiculous. But the thing about it is it's kind of genius because people are going to go see it. Like, there's already an audience who would want to see that. So they're going to do it because they know they're going to make money from it. And I think that's kind of what everything is sort of turned into, is just like, well, we know people like this, so let's do it because we know we're going to make money, and we want money. So I think that's why that's happening, but it is a little bit unfortunate. And it's kind of turning these big things in, like Disney, who has Marvel and Disney and Star Wars and all that stuff, to just keep reusing stuff and make billions of dollars on it. So I think we're going to get away from that eventually, but it's going to be a while. So get ready for a lot of mixing and melding in the next couple years.
Emma, I was gonna say that same thing. Like, I feel like they just do it for like money. Like, I wanted to add on the funniest thing. The Netflix is adding like a hype house reality show of TikTokers. I don't know if anyone heard about that, but that just cracks me up.
oh no,
I did not
I was
hear
better
about
off
that.
not hearing about it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Everyone knows it's not gonna be good, but they do it for the money because they know people are gonna want to hate on it and watch it and see what it's all about. That's what it's all about with like any movie or like whatever these days. It's so scary. Oh my God.
TikTokers are now the new Kardashians, I guess. I mean, I don't know if you guys saw like the Jake.
Disney Channel stars. So
Oh
it's
yeah,
it's terrible.
and it's just like I don't know if you guys saw like the Jake Paul fight a few weeks ago. Well, like Charlie D'Amelio and all like these TikTokers were all there, like on like the UFC. I was just like, why? Like, why? Like, it's so unnecessary and like in my opinion, and it's just like, but this is like who younger kids are like looking up to. Like we were looking up to like Dylan and Cole Sprouse on the Zach Sweet Life of Zach and Cody, and now we're looking up to Charlie D'Amelio and who else?
I don't even know what to say about this, but I mean, everybody gets their 15 minutes of fame. That's the only way I can put whatever's happening now. But somebody take over. I can't do this right now.
I think it's a little bit more than 15 minutes, unfortunately. I think that this is just sort of how it is.
Right.
Yeah.
And we're not used to it because, we just grew up in a very different world. But I do think that it's going to become more of these little celebrities rather than these giant celebrities that everybody knows, with the exception of somebody like Charlie D'Amelio.
Right.
But yeah, everything's changing, guys.
Yeah.
It's sad because at first it's like I feel like Charlie has talent, like she's a very good dancer, but I'm saying like a TikToker like Noah Beck, how is he famous? Like I want to know, like any of us can move our hands and like motions the way he can. So it's like I feel like, and he's like has like I think he was in a movie or something. I don't remember what he was in, but I don't understand how like somebody that has like such little talent can like be so big.
I mean, it was kind of that stars too. Like not all of them. Some of them were really good. Like well, it's fine. I won't share my opinions on that. But there were people where I was like, you cannot act. Yeah, it's fine. It's just how I think that's fine. Just some people get lucky for no reason.
Well, look at like how it was with like I know Kyle, you said 15 seconds of fame. Look at like Vine, right? So we had like, David Dobrik, he was big for so long until recently. So I think these guys are gonna have like their 5 to 10 years of doing whatever they want unless they mess something up. Like David Dobrik, he really had a whole if the things didn't come out or if like he wasn't as how could I say this? If none of the things came out about David Dobrik because he didn't do those actions, then he probably would be still like admired by people, So it's very hard looking at like I always compare like Vine and TikTok to each other, but it's kind of hard to compare them because they have two different effects on life.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I mean, it's just it's weird where it's come to nowadays. But I mean, in all the bad that we've talked about the Oscars, I think there were some silver linings, at least some exciting moments, I should say. I, for one, am very interested in seeing the new West Side Story.
Yes, I am too. I'm very excited for that. That's also what we were talking about earlier with the remakes.
Right.
But I also think there's some. I like that they're redoing this because West Side Story is a great story, and the movie is good, but it's a bunch of white people, and that West Side Story is not about white people. So I'm glad that they're redoing it, and I think that'll be just better in the long run. I also think that it's going to be really, really good. So I'm excited.
I'm rather excited because when they first mentioned it on the Oscars, they mentioned West Side Story. I'm like, wasn't that a movie from the 60s? Why are they showing it now? And then I saw the trailer. I'm like, it's a remake. I get it.
Yeah.
I wasn't too, I wasn't too smart in that brief moment of time last night, but I really like it because I saw it like years ago. And it was one of my music classes, like sixth grade, I think. And he mentioned that it was a like a readaptation or a rethinking of Romeo and Juliet. So like going back to our originality is dead. It's been dead pretty much since like the 60s.
Yeah, I guess that's true. That is true. A lot of things get reused. I mean, well, Shakespeare is something that's been reused since forever. Well, since it's existed. So I guess it's really been dead for a long, long time. But yeah, I mean, Romeo and Juliet, that's a classic story. I feel like that's been readapted in a ton of different ways. One of my favorite ways is Teen Beach Movie. I'm just kidding. But yeah, no, I think it's going to be really good. And I think that will be a success. Hopefully they don't mess it up. I don't think they will though. It looked really good. So yeah.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed at this point. That's all we can hope for. I mean, I trust Lin-Manuel Miranda. I know he's a part of it. So hopefully it goes well. But that's all we can do at this point until it actually comes out. But with that, we've talked a lot about the Oscars. I think we need a little bit of a break. So again, you are listening to WMSC Upper Montclair, the voice of Montclair State University, and we will be right back. You are listening to WMSC Upper Montclair. We are back here on the Monday edition. We are back here on WMSC Upper Montclair, the Monday edition of the Morning Buzz. Kyle, again, how are you?
I'm doing quite well. How are you?
Oh, we're back. I mean, I'm just glad we're doing this episode today. I mean, it's always great to be back here in the studio.
Yeah.
It's
always
great.
Fun to have something good to talk about.
Oh, of course. It's always great with us, and Katrina and Emma as well.
I think the Oscars were a nice change of pace this week.
Oh, I think so.
I think something we needed, even though we might not have necessarily enjoyed the ceremony itself.
Right, exactly. But other than the Oscars, we still have COVID going on. Kyle, what is happening in regards to COVID vaccinations?
So millions of Americans are skipping out on their second doses of COVID vaccines. And I feel like saying that there should be like some kind of collective gasp in the background. It just feels like one of them like shock news stories. But according to the NY Times, the number of Americans skipping out the second dose of their COVID vaccine is rapidly growing. Recent CDC data has shown that over 5 million Americans who have received the Pfizer or Moderna vaccine have missed their appointments for their second doses. In interviews, people have stated that they've skipped the second shot for various reasons. Some of those reasons including fear of the side effects and feelings of sufficient protection after just one shot, which is not medically proven yet to be as effective as both shots. But it's not just the general public's dismissiveness of the vaccine, or should I say, but also there are some instances in which second appointments have been canceled on people, mostly due to an insufficient supply of the correct vaccine. So one of the main places that's having a struggle is Walgreens, in which several locations have been unable to stock both doses or both versions of that vaccine. So there have been many instances in where people have gotten their Pfizer shot for the first one, and then the same Walgreens location where they got the Pfizer shot only had Moderna, having them to go find out another location that did have the shot. So it's a mix here of between people not wanting it and people unable to get their second shot. And a whole nother issue that I should also mention is college students who have recently become eligible for the COVID vaccine most likely will not be on campus by the time their second shot or the time for their second shot to come around. So that's a whole new issue that people are trying to figure out. So, not stellar news, but I mean, it's what it is at this point.
That's definitely bizarre.
Yeah.
The fact that people aren't getting their appointments is more frightening to me and more disappointing, because it's like, why aren't there appointments available? I think now that'll change because of the more accessibility for vaccinations, as anyone can now get a vaccine now.
Right.
But it's also people getting afraid of the second dose of the side effects. If you do get a side effect from the vaccine, that means that the vaccine is your body's fighting it off. I know it does. The side effects are not good for some people, but that's only for some people. I know some people who've gotten good have been totally okay, or have been in my case where I got the Johnson & Johnson and I felt terrible, and I had COVID and I felt worse with the vaccine. But at the end of the day, I think people should realize that you will be immune from this deadly disease. You will not have to go to the hospital if you do get the vaccine.
Right.
So I think that is something that we still need to push, and we still need to relay a message to people,
Right.
because we can't just have people not get their vaccinations, because then that lowers our efforts towards herd immunity.
Right. I don't know if it's I don't know if we should say immune, because even though if people do get the both doses of vaccine, they're still susceptible to it, just not as much. So I don't know if immune's the right word, but that's like a big point we should make, that it's technically immunity, but at the same time it's not, because you're not completely defended against it. You're just more so than those who have not been.
Right.
But you said that like more people are accessible, which should make it like easier. But I feel like that's where some of this problem's coming in. The more and more people who are eligible to get vaccines requires these sites to have more and more vaccines. And I think that's why many places, Walgreens specifically, is having this problem where they only have a few of one version in stock, because the more and more people that have to get it, the less and less you'll have stockpiled. So it's very unfortunate that a lot of people are unable to get the second shot, which is different from not wanting to. But there have been some instances where people are not even trying. Like, they hope they can get the second vaccine, but they're not actively trying to find an appointment for it, because a lot of people have been sent on some sort of wild goose chase around 16 different Walgreens locations. A number might be a bit exaggerated, but only to find they only have the version that they don't need. And a lot of people have given up the hunt, so to speak, because of that. Because if you're going to get the vaccine, a lot of people want it to be easily accessible. They're not going to want to have to travel 6 states across to get a vaccine, only to find out that location, doesn't have it.
Right.
And I wanted to add on, if it's weird how they're saying that they're canceling people's second doses, but as I said in my newscast, one of my stories was being able to walk in. And so I feel like maybe that's something that's limiting the amount of shots that people can get. Like, they're allowing these walk-ins, but then again, they don't have enough doses. Maybe they should wait to push that walk-in option, even though like it's really great to have, but then again, if we don't have enough vaccines for it, I don't think we should have it right now.
Right. Yeah. And when you read when I heard you read that story, I'm like, Based on what I looked up last night, that doesn't sound like the smartest of ideas. Like
Right.
it's like you said, it's great and all, but at the current moment, it might be doing more harm than good.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of tough that people are like, yeah, just canceling it because of the side effects. I mean, I understand the side effects. You don't want to go through it, but I personally I would much rather go through those side effects than, you know, God forbid something happens with COVID. It's just I don't know.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, like, because as of Montclair has required the vaccine for its students for next semester, and I said, okay, if I like, I've heard from what I've heard from the side effects, I'm like, if I have to get this, I'm waiting till school's over. I cannot afford a day of not doing anything because I feel sick from this vaccine. I've got too much to do right now, and I think it's worth like just waiting till summer if I had to.
Right. Yeah.
Especially now, it's just like when people getting the vaccinations in regards to Montclair, like people, people might have to get a booster shot as well for the Pfizer shot. I don't know if you guys saw that. After 6 months, you might have to get a third shot of the Pfizer shot. So some people might be waiting for that too. I don't know if that's your situation, Kyle.
Not that I know. I didn't even know about the, like uh reanimated shot, to so to speak, or the booster shot as you called it. That this is the first I'm hearing about that. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess even for me, I have to make the decision of which of the three to get. But as of right now, it's just and the big thing too is one that I think is very important to mention is the college students who have become eligible that won't be there or won't be on camp on their respective campus by the time it comes around for the second shot. Because Montclair sent out an email a few days ago saying, "Hey, we're pairing with Walmart to get your vaccines," but I don't think a lot of people are going to be in that Montclair area by the time it takes or when they're ready to get the second shot. Because what it's like a 3 or 4 month gap, not month, 3 or 4 week gap between the two shots, correct?
Yeah.
It could be 2 weeks as well, right?
Yeah.
It depends on which shot you get, Pfizer or Moderna. I think Moderna's like 6 weeks, I want to say. I
Really?
might be wrong, but I think Pfizer is 4 weeks.
Yeah. And like for us, for Montclair, that makes sense. We still have 4 weeks left in the semester, so maybe. But we're also ending a lot later than most colleges this year because we started so much later.
Right.
So it's very interesting to see what some of these colleges are going to do in regards to vaccinating their students if they do choose to get vaccinated at a site on or near wherever their campus may be. Um, but since they won't be there, it's going to be, are they going to require them to get the at the same site, or will they have more leeway into getting it at somewhere else, maybe closer to home?
Yeah, I like the effort Montclair has done in regards to, all right, we're going to bus you here to get vaccinated. And I love, and it could be, and again, you're listening to WMSC Upper Montclair. It's definitely, it depends how you look at it. Because you ask some people and it's like, well, they should have did it sooner, like having vaccinations available. And then you have some people say it's too late. I think, the Montclair, the university's doing their best efforts they can right now as vaccines are made more available to get their students vaccinated. And there's always going to be backlash, whether, oh, I'm not getting the vaccine, or, I don't want it, I don't trust it. But at the same time, the school is attempting to get back to normal. So I do applaud their efforts of trying to get the vaccinations done for their students and,
Right.
all those involved in the university. However, you brought up a great point of, are they going to be able to go to a different location? If I live in down south and I get the vaccine here, what does that mean for me? I'm gonna have to drive all the way up here too. So it
Oh
honestly
yeah,
depends on
even
the
out of
person.
state people. I didn't even think about that.
And I think some people, it's easy to forget. Like it's weird to say this, but it's kind of easy to forget like your second shot. Because at the same time you get the first one, it's like, oh, when's my next one? And then you just kind of like, it's like another moment, like, oh, I got to do this again.
Yeah.
It's so, I think that's definitely an issue some people have. I know prior vaccinations too. I know sometimes you have to get like 3 shots of a vaccination. It's just hard to keep in mind like when, um, you have to go back. So
Yeah. That is true. And I mean, Montclair really did like go as quick as possible. They required the vaccine as soon as New Jersey made it eligible for anybody living, studying, or working here 16 and above. So round of applause to them for that, at least.
Yeah, and they're trying to keep the campus safe as as of I have to get 3 tests per week as a resident student.
Yeah, that doesn't sound fun.
Yeah, but I'm willing to do my part as to keep the campus safe and make sure everyone else keeps the campus safe too. I mean, last week there were 20, and the cases were in the 20s for Montclair, so that it's lower than previous weeks. It was at 40 in previous weeks, or 35. So if everyone continues to get tested, because testing is a huge part of keeping track of who's doing what, and making sure the spread is minimal. So the more people get vaccinated, the least amount of tests. And Governor Phil Murphy's making an announcement today about the New Jersey's reopening plan at 1 p.m. today. So I'm sure we'll have coverage on that and for about his briefings to see what is next for New Jersey as a whole.
Yep.
But that was great being on with you all today in the Monday's edition of the Morning Buzz. It's a great way to start off my week.
Yes, here on 90.3 WMSC Upper Montclair and the Monday edition of the Morning Buzz. I have been Kyle Pepitone, along with
Ryan Breyta
and Patrina Geiger.
We will feel free to stay tuned to the rest of WMSC. We have more Morning Buzz every week with new hosts and new stories. Until then, the three of us will see you in the future next week and all that. Goodbye, everybody. Have a great day.
Stay safe, everyone.